Mr. Amre? Yeah, you're the only one who's speaking. So before the panelists start speaking, thank you so much. You are my best friend in this room. You started, you ended, you showed to others how they should be focused, precise, and to the point. We have a there are probably two topics we could have today. One topic would be Middle East, and another topic also, so focus would be about the future of the world and everything related to it. We decided to actually talk about Middle East. When we were putting together this panel, it was completely different setting than it is today. I won't read you the talking points that were given to our panelists that we expect them to reflect on, because those talking points remained, but new talking points are being created in the meantime. We have 30 minutes. 30 minutes. You see how many of us. Each panelist will be having opening statement near 2 minutes in order to have additional 2 minutes to close up and to reflect on what other people said. The idea is very simple. Pick up one of the things that you consider our key issue today. Is it the future of Palestine, the two-state solution, how to do it, what we should do it? Is it the focus on how to stop the war that is going on? Is it something which is about long-term perspective of Middle East? Long-term perspective in 2 minutes. So I'm so thankful that we have such a distinguished group of panelists. I will not introduce anyone in order to end with my 2 minutes. So, Miguel, please take the floor, do your 2 minutes, and enlighten us just at the beginning so we can be following you. Thank you.
Thank you. There have been 3 important moments in the recent history of the Middle East. We are in a turning point. We are starting the new chapter. First one, Pseudo, Balfour, and this European influence in the Middle East. Secondly was Holocaust, State of Israel, and Truman Abdelaziz Security Oil Agreement. Thirdly, we started with the appearance of the Grand Leader Ali Khomeini in 1979, and then the peace talk in Madrid 1991 in the American, peace process till today. So today we have to ask ourselves, what Middle East we want? We want a one-state Middle East, one state that has a nuclear bomb, one state that tries to rule the whole Middle East, in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Syria, even in the Gulf. We want two-state solutions to solve the permanent, essential element in the Middle East. If there is no peace with the Palestinians, there will be no peace and stability in the future of the whole region. Or we'll have the multi-state solution that all the time decide let's be for together. So, well, two-state solution priority, and I call all the countries that vote for the recognition of Palestinian state to say it's not just to recognize Palestinian state, to work for the Palestinian state, but it has to be done. We have not to wait for the board of peace, we have not to work for now. We have to do the alliance between the two-state family to start to work. And then finally, we want a multi-state solution. Let's create, after this crisis today, a collective security system for the first time. And the change will be that for the first time, it will be the Arab and the own protagonists to define their future. No European, no American, but they all Arab and they have to define their own future.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Miguel Angel. You showed the way to everyone. Amre.
Thank you.
After 2 minutes and 20 seconds, you have time.
I don't have to repeat what Miguel just said. I agree with him. This is the point that we have to stress. But to discuss the Middle East in half an hour with 6 persons, it is an impossible proposition. So I will just say the following. without doing whatever we can as international community, countries, members of the UN, and doing whatever we can in order to reach a stable world without solving the Palestinian question and giving them the right to exercise the right to self-determination. This is their right. And this self-determination will show us in which direction we should move. I believe that the most important thing to be done is to encourage the Palestinians that as the Israelis will run elections next autumn. I believe the Palestinians will have to go to elections to elect a new leadership and members of parliament. And from there they go. They have to tell us what exactly they want and what do they insist on. The Palestinians or the Middle East itself cannot survive. No stability, no peace without a Palestinian self-determination. This is the point that we have to stress. It is impossible to end this problem with 100% given to the Israeli side. This is an impossibility. And whether today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from at the end of this century, the Palestinians will have their own state. Without this, there can be no peace in the region. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Amre. I told him when we started, what we do? I said, mission impossible, to pack in 2 minutes, and he did it more than mission impossible. I salute you, Amre. Madam Ackson, please, the floor is yours. You saw the legends, how they do. Follow that.
Thank you so much. Well, I will not claim expertise on the Middle East, but I am going to say I have a feeling that the double standards that we apply when different nations do things is what is actually affecting, we like to call it generally like the Middle East, but what is affecting the relationship between the Palestinian people and Israel. The leaders have to reach a point where they are honest in what they say, but also they believe in what they say. We have been at the international level, even at IB, we have been talking about the two-state solution as one of the pillars of what is going to bring peace between the Palestinian people and Israel. But when we talk about the two-state solution, who are these global leaders who have actually visited a Palestinian people, talked to them? Who are those who have been there on the ground physically? Some of us read the papers, watch TV of what people have said, but I think the global leaders should actually go there physically and not just be led through these conference rooms when you are briefed there of what is happening. They should see how the people are suffering actually on the streets, on the ground. Because when you just watch the news, it doesn't tell you what is actually happening. I'll tell you now, because I only have maybe half a minute. What is happening there is very dire. So when we talk about two-state solution, and we are talking about the boundaries that were there in 1967, do those boundaries exist? If they don't, what are we going to do? The settlements are still being constructed. Palestinian people are still, wanting in terms of their, to use the wording of Moussa, self-determination. How are we helping? Now in this room, I'll end with this sentence. When we talk about the two-state solution, we have to first go there, understand what is happening on the ground, see whether those boundaries we are talking about exist. If they don't, what are we going to do? We have been quiet for so long. We have been talking about it in these conferences for so long. Now it is time not for action, but for results. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Ackson. Obviously, you used the gesture of gentlemen. All gentlemen Amre Moussa, who gave you his 30 seconds, so you used them extensively. Thank you so much. Werner, the floor is yours.
Yes.
Yeah, just a few words. I think the big mistake was made by the United States because they just went as a junior partner to Bibi into this war. They more or less transported their leadership to anybody else, somebody who is involved into the problems and therefore could not bring any solution. And this should be also a message for the future, because we do have and will have more or less 4 regional powers. This is Turkey, this is Iran, this is Saudi Arabia, and this is Israel. And if you cannot find a balance between them, the mess will go on. And the only ones that really could bring at least part of a solution at the moment are the Americans together with the community. What I see is, that of course it was not only a lose-lose-lose situation, economically, politically, and militarily, almost for everybody, maybe 2 exceptions, Israel and China, but we have to try to find out a way, and this should be possible. If we invest not more into military, but into diplomacy, because what really has happened was the biggest failure of diplomacy we had in history. Once, when Donald Trump cancelled the JCPOA 7 or 8 years ago already, because there was a diplomatic solution, and the question will be whether we will find a diplomatic solution for the future.
Thank you, Werner. We are used on Austrian preciseness, so thank you so much. Well, Mohammed, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that I am Iranian, so my remarks should be prefaced in that context. What has happened, I will not touch upon, because I think everybody knows what has happened in the last couple of weeks. What I would like to talk about is that firstly, until and unless the Western objectives are defined in crystal clear terms as to what it is they want out of this war, this conflict will not end. If the objectives are for Iran not to be nuclear, well, there are repercussions of that means, what in terms of a single nuclear hegemon in the region, and whether other countries will be allowed to develop civilian nuclear power, but Iran is curtailed. Secondly, the missiles. If Iran is told that we should downgrade or degrade your long-term missiles and you should be using them only in a defensive capacity, I think that this is something that could work. But if Iran is told that they should dismantle the entirety of the missile program, this will not work. If Iran is told to curtail its proxies, largely they will do that because already the proxies have been degraded in Syria, in Lebanon, in Yemen, and so I'm not sure that this is an objective that Iran would not be able to accommodate. And I would then say that if there is a ceasefire, it will this time have to be a comprehensive ceasefire with a UN Security Council resolution supporting this, because any other solution for this is just going to postpone the problem and we will be where we are 6 months from now. And finally, if we are not careful, there will be 3 outcomes out of Iran. None of them are going to be particularly great, but the best one will be if Iran is not humiliated, is allowed to engage back into the Gulf states, and relations with the Gulf and the wider Arab world is improved. If not, the prospects for a civil war are very, very high, and this will result in 2 to 5 million Iranians migrating to the Gulf states, and there is nothing that Dubai, Abu Dhabi, or Doha can do to stop 5 million people crossing the Persian Gulf. The worst scenario also could be that IRGC takes over from the religious leadership, and then you have a military regime with very, very hardcore objectives. I will stop there.
Thank you. Willem?
This discussion began with an overview of the key inflection points in history in the region, from Balfour and Sykes-Picot to the State of Israel and so forth. I think we missed one, which is 1979 with the Iranian Revolution, and that, of course, gets right to where we are today. There are two main actors that will decide how this war ends, the framework. One is Donald Trump. He will only do so if there is a deal to be made by someone in the Iranian regime. I agree completely with Mohammed. I don't think that that's very likely, given what the United States wants to see. The other way is if he decides to declare victory and go home at some point. That will happen with a combination of diplomatic pressure, economic pressure, and political pressure, none of which has been reached yet. It could be reached, but it's not going to be reached in a day or two. We're talking about more on weeks side, just if it will be reached at all to do that. The other actor, which hasn't been discussed yet, is the Iranian people. The Iranian people, over the last 15 years, have taken almost every opportunity available to them to rise up and show their displeasure to the regime in Tehran in various different ways. In increasing levels of severity, increasing levels of numbers up there. The Women Life Freedom Movement was a direct threat to the ideological and theological underpinnings of the regime. And the protests in January were a direct threat to the regime themselves, what people were chanting on the streets. We don't know how many people were killed in January, but the people on my team that look at this most closely believe that 20,000 is a good number to use. There are higher estimates, there are lower estimates. But let's also be clear, 20,000 people were killed in 2 days. That is a faster rate of killing than in Gaza, than in Syria, than in Yemen, than in Sudan, even than in Rwanda. We don't know. That rate of killing may be enough to keep the people off the streets now. Or it might be that they are going to come up. If they do come up, then President Trump has incredibly important decisions to make, and the entire future of this war and the length of this war may be vastly changed as a result.
Thank you. Well, we heard the first round of speakers. William, since you ended with 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to go for your final remarks.
2 minutes.
1 minute and 30 seconds.
Take 2 minutes up there.
No, but since he spoke 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the second round, he has only 1 minute and 30 seconds. See, save time. See, okay, come on. So, yeah, you have 2 minutes, Angel, yeah, believe me. So, William, please, I mean, just to reflect on yourself and everyone else. Last night we heard artificial intelligence prediction that the current war with Iran and Israel and the United States on the other side is going to end in weeks. Question for everyone, and I mean, I would reflect, will ask you to say something else added to what we heard from artificial intelligence last night. When this current crisis is going to end, or where American president is going to declare that the war is over, that he won, whatever, when, and then what are preconditions when we can start seriously talking about what we agreed so far, what Amre said very clearly. It's not a question of will the two-state solution happen or not. The question is only when and what are preconditions for it. So for you to reflect in your minute and a half or up to 2 minutes is when the current war is going to end and when we can come back to the core of the issue, which is Palestinian issue. Please, William, you can start your minute and 30 seconds.
As I said, I think the war will end in a low single-digit number of weeks if President Trump is going to declare victory. But then what the Iranian people do could extend it quite significantly. That the entire mission may change in that environment, where people aren't talking about that enough. But that's the most important factor that we don't know. As far as the two-state solution, we all want the two-state solution. The biggest gap in the two-state solution right now, besides just the leadership on both sides of the question, is the fact that we don't need a process, we need a solution, we need a plan. 3 American presidents, for better or for worse, have put forward a plan on the table. 2 Israeli prime ministers have put forward a plan. The only Arab plan has been the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative, which the substance was important for 1967, but not for 2002. I would love to see the Arab world come up with real answers on the questions of borders, on the questions of the right of return, and on the questions of Jerusalem. Those are the toughest compromises needed to be done, and there is no Arab position on any of those issues.
Thank you.
So on this question, I guess the way I analyze it is the tail wagging the dog. Who's the tail and who's the dog in this relationship between the United States and Israel in many respects? I have had the benefit of traveling to every country in the Middle East, including Israel on many occasions, Iran on many occasions. And my view here, it may seem a little bit controversial, for which I apologize in advance. I think that there will be no two-state in my lifetime, because the objective of Israel, obviously, is the way I read it, is to have the Gazaeans being pushed into the Sinai as much as possible, with the support of Egypt, but confine them there. And my understanding is that the West Bank Palestinians are going to be pushed into Jordan and make that into an enlarged Jordan with whatever demographic changes that will result in. And Israel is going to secure itself so it can never ever face any Palestinian uprising, because the state in question has gone away. You have an enlarged Jordan in which the Palestinian population will be the majority. They will try to push for His Majesty to adopt a more ceremonial monarchy role like it is in the United Kingdom, and this will be the homeland for the Palestinians partly, and Sinai will be partly. And so far, this right-wing regime in Israel continues in power. I have a feeling that this is where it is going to go. The Board of Peace, which was what Trump's initiative is, now has 2.5 years left, and when Trump leaves the administration, it's unknown whether that Board of Peace is going to continue or not. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed. Werner?
Yeah. Before a few words to the Palestinian question, I want to mention big need that the Kurdish question is not brought into the game, because there was the imminent danger that Trump did not talk only to Talabani and Barzani, but also to an Iranian Kurdish leader. And if you bring this into the game, this would mean, the question of 40 million Kurdish people who are divided, living in 4 countries. You would destabilize Turkey, Iran, Syria, and Iraq at the same time for decades. Insofar, this is for me the most imminent and most important question. Second, going back to Palestine, I would say most imminent for me certainly will be to stop the settlements in the West Bank. If this is not be stopped, then nobody will be able to bring any solution. And insofar, before talking about the super solution for eternity, I think we have to be pragmatic and try to solve the West Bank question and also the Gaza problem. It cannot be that half of the Gazan territory now is occupied by the Israeli government. If you look, that the size of nowadays Gaza Strip is half of the size of Vienna, but the population is even more than Vienna. You could imagine that they cannot exist in the future if there will not come any solution.
Thank you, Tulia. The floor is yours.
Thanks. I think I'm going to say, Mohammed began by saying what he's going to say. He would like to apologize to people. I think I agree with you, so you don't have to apologize in what you have said. But on the other hand, you asked the specific question. I don't know when this, what is happening in Iran and the neighboring countries is going to come to an end. But I'm just hoping that at some point we will see common sense being common, and then people sitting down and seeing the importance of the use of dialogue as grown-ups, and use dialogue instead of war, because war affects everybody. But in terms of dialogue, you sit down and talk as leaders, and I think we all have to take that responsibility. On the issue of the two-state solution, well, one can be optimistic or pessimistic, but I think we need an understanding. I'm going back to what I said, an understanding of what is actually happening there. And that's why when I say maybe the settlements should stop in the West Bank, but I don't see that happening, that the settlements will stop. Because as we sit here, construction is still going on. So we have to look at this question very carefully and be more practical instead of theoretical, because you can be very good at resolutions, very good at, speeches, but we have to not only get to action, but we need the results, and we have to demand those results from ourselves, but also from our leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. My neighbor to the left is an expert on wildlife. That's why she is most welcome with us in discussing the Middle East. The Middle East is really moving to be wild. Why? Because of the double standard and the support given to Israel and the non-support all the way for the Palestinians, without giving the Palestinians the right to express their views at least. How can we move on? That's number one. Number two, I am a proponent of elections in Palestine in order for them to choose their deputies and their representatives and their leadership. At the same time, on the Israeli side, I hope, and many of us, not you, but around the world and in the region, hope that such Israeli elections will produce a government capable of negotiating and have heard already about the word peace and what it means. Without this, I must really add one observation. The nuclear activities of Iran. In fact, Iran should not have nuclear weapons. But so is Israel. Israel should not have nuclear weapons either. At this point, this is the double standard. This is the definition of double standard that is killing all chances for a fair peace in the Middle East. As long as we call on Iran to stop producing or following this line of arming nuclear armament, we have to do that with Israel. This double standard is unacceptable. This is the reason why all our efforts in the Middle East are falling, are failing. Double standard, especially by the Western diplomacy, all through the last 2 or 3 decades, even more, is the reason behind the crisis we are facing in our region.
Wow. Miguel, the floor is yours.
3 minutes, no?
Okay, you have a discount. Go.
I have not an answer for when it's going to finish this crisis. But I think it's going to be long, more than the people announced at the beginning. But nevertheless, we can already extract some lessons, and the parties have to extract some lessons. And the main lesson will be we have to move from a strategy on security or a strategy for peace. Let me explain how these military bases have provided security to the main actors in the region. How was these shields to protect them of any crisis have been converted in targets? So the Arab Gulf countries have to extract some specific basis and reason how to build up after the war. For that reason, I think we have to move to peace. There will not be security forever. Never will reach security. It's always more security, unless you have peace. But for that reason, you have to create a political movement with the people who want peace. That means Arabs, Europeans, Americans will join, but we have not to wait for Godot to come because we don't know. We are waiting, Godot is not coming. And we have to move for peace. For that reason, I call Europeans and Arabs to move extremely. And once they move for peace, then you can be the security component of peace. And you have the collective, the OAC, Middle East, with everybody on board, Iranians, Israelis, Arabs, European whoever, with the nuclear, no nuclear, to really establish a peaceful, enough is enough, in more than 100 years the region is not getting up, because we are not taking the right decision at the right moment. Now we have decided two-state solution, go two-state solution. No waiting for Godot for 1, 2, 3 years, now. The pact between Truman and King Abdelaziz is over. There was oil and security. What do you have today? No oil, no security. Thank you.
Wow. Now, first I want to thank panelists for something which is really, I mean, they impressed me. This is really impressive. I mean, that it was possible in such a short period competing with the food to give people food for thought. I mean, after such impressive discussion. It also shows that, I mean, when you have wise people and wise audience, there is no need to give a lot of elaborations. Just get to the point. And we heard so many very precise points in this little bit over 20 minutes, which is impressive. I want to thank them for that. Just a second, Peter. Just a second. We heard last night artificial intelligence say that it will go for weeks, which means that artificial intelligence also doesn't know what they're talking about, because for weeks, World War II was going on for weeks, for 300 weeks. But weeks doesn't end. We heard very impressive and optimistic idea there will be one-digit weeks. We had a little bit pessimistic weeks, but basically speaking, we hope that it will be closer to William than to Miguel, that it will be one-digit weeks. I was comforting myself when the latent peace accord was, a fair peace accord was established. I was comforting myself by saying that peace is not everything, but about peace, nothing else is possible. So that's what we have to go, how this war stops, how we open the process, that things that are possible become possible. And we heard what are the only possibilities that are long-lasting peace. I really want to salute you for this, and the reason, Peter, why you are not ready to work at before, because 11 people already registered, which means that no one will get it. Thank you very much. You had food for thought, and your food is there. Thank you.